Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours, the show where we answer your technical and media production questions 7 days a week. Jason's reading questions. Let's jump right in.
Mike Edwards in Brooklyn, New York asks, "Morning, everyone. What is the panel's recommendation for remote kits to be sent out for recording keynotes or PowerPoints? At least 3 options, please. Good, better, best. Thanks."
You know, I think we have some people on the panel that have some experience sending out remote kits. And Alex, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so it really depends on what you want them to do. So you're talking about PowerPoint and presentation. My question is are you trying to are you talking about the cameras and the mics, or are you talking just about the presentation? So the presentation is a couple different things. One is they can share it. So there is they can either share their screen and just go through it. The problem with that is that any animations going through Zoom or going through other things usually will have any WebRTC solution will tend to get chunky, you know, when you start to have animation. So it doesn't look as good as you thought it would as you did it. So that's one challenge. You know, the other thing is that a lot of times things get a little over compressed, so it doesn't look as good. So a lot of times what we try to do is have some way that we can have our PowerPoint or Keynote on our side and have them control it. There's a couple web controllers that we've used in the past. I mean, when we do it, we often will still use a DSAN perfect queue, and then we're using USB to IP, back to IP to USB. So we send them something that will let them just use their little, what happens is we have a lot of speakers that really want to use their clicker. You know, they're used to clickers, they're used to being on stage. And so we can send them a pickle and send them a little receiver and have it send the information back to us. So that's the kind of the higher end solution of that. Again, I want to say it's OctaQ, but I can't remember the name of there's a web-based one that will do queuing, which will send USB commands there, and I don't remember what it is. And then the question is that how you want them to look. I mean, so the presentation slides are important, but how do you want them to look? We would consider for a presenter a Insta360 Link version 1 to be minimum viable for this kind of thing, and then we start going up from there. So are we sending them lights? Are we sending them, like, this is a Countryman headset. We've sent a lot of these headsets out. And so it's pretty low profile, but lets us get better. I say that, let's just get better audio. I got a little reverb in the room that I'm in right now, but that's because it's a really empty room. So anyway, but it provides generally much better audio than their computer will. And then sometimes we have a simple USB interface. Sometimes we're using a mix pre. A lot of our higher end kits have mixed pre's in them.
And go ahead, Courtney.
And as far as camera goes, I still like the original Insta360 Link camera because it's a 3-way gimbal. So it has horizon correction as well as pan tilt. You can remotely operate it. You can set it on top of a monitor. It has automatic tracking modes so that it can track your presenter if they're going to be walking around. It has gesture control. It has whiteboard if they're going to be working with a whiteboard. It has a mode which will just shoot the whiteboard. It'll find the whiteboard in the room and make it full screen if they're going to be drawing on the whiteboard. And as Alex said, a wireless mic of some sort if they're going to be walking around during their presentation and not within a fixed desk mic of some sort, a headset like a DPA or Countryman plugged into maybe I'd rather go with a UHF wireless mic, but if you can't, the cheaper Rode Goes and the DJIs are pretty good for 2.4 gigahertz. Just remember to try and keep the receiver on the same side of the body as the transmitter when you plug that microphone in to the transmitter. If you're going to put it on their back, put the receiver behind them and run a USB extension cable so that the receiver is not between the body of the person and the transmitter. So those are my suggestions.
And just to bring in a couple of people from the chat to round this out, Guy Cochran saying hardware with time code is nice for the edit and sync. And David Brady also says OctaQ and Internet Clicker are pretty solid virtualizations of the DSAN. Let's go to the next question.
From the QR code, Karen Addison, Melbourne, Australia asks, is there a way to test USB-C to USB-C cables to check what speed they're capable of?
Jason?
Yeah, there are. Your best bet is to basically just take a standard sized file and try to move it. And if it's unacceptable to you, throw it out. It's that simple. Any other way of doing it is going to cost you a fair bit of money.
Courtney.
Well, it depends on what your idea of a fair bit of money is. There are a lot of inexpensive USB testers that test voltage and USB-C cables. This one actually is a cable tester. It actually shows you what the speed rating is here on this little LCD display, and it takes a variety of different USB Type-C cables and USB Type-A cables. It's about $45. There's a number of them that are out there you can find on Amazon for testing, and they you put them in line with the feed for your cable, and it'll tell you how much voltage it's drawing, how much current it's drawing. It'll even chart the voltage supplied over time, things like that. And this one happens to show you whether it's Thunderbolt capable and which version of Thunderbolt that it's identifying itself as. But, its speed is relative to the thing that's supplying the data and the thing that's receiving the data besides just the cable. So you have to do a test anyway, and you can use Crystal Disk Mark or something like that to copy some large files and see what your throughput is over that cable once you get the tester in line. The tester will just show you what the cable is supposedly rated at, but what the cable is rated at, that's not going to necessarily show you how much data is going to go through from your source to your destination because of those variables.
And Alex.
Yeah, and one thing is if you have a known drive that is, and again, all of those are useful. If you have a known drive, you can use Blackmagic's disk speed tester. Just do a search for Blackmagic disk speed, and there's a little download that you can get there. And if you have a fast drive and a fast connection on your computer, you plug it in, and it'll go up to the speed of that drive. So if you've got a 2 gig per second drive, you'll be able to rate up to that. If you've got a 6 gig, like the OWC one we're testing, it'll go up to that if the cable's capable of delivering that. And so then you can start to test those. But yeah, I don't think that there's a tester that I know of that will run the test. It'll tell you what it knows about the cable, but to actually test it, you have to have something that's going to push that much bandwidth on both ends to make sure that works.
Next question.
Harold Williams in Portsmouth asks, sometimes we run out of space on our switcher. What do you think a video router would be a better option? Do you think a video router would be a better option than a larger switcher? If so, why?
Courtney.
Well, it might help you in arranging your inputs if you're not changing a lot of inputs during the show. A lot of times, there are a couple of things to consider in a router. Some routers are clean switch and some are not. Blackmagic makes both a clean switch video hub and a normal video hub where you just you punch in your input and you punch in your destination and you hit go, and it will route that video input to the output. It'll synchronize it to house sync along the way. However, to do clean switching, if you want to actually switch sources on the air, you're going to need a unit, a video hub, or a router that is synchronized across all inputs and gen-locked. So take that into consideration. I would not prefer to use I would like to have a hub to, choose which inputs are going into the switcher so that you could, add a few more, take a few more away. But what a lot of people do is use, some of the older ATEM minis just as a pre-switcher going into one of the inputs on your current switcher. Because remember, a router is just a switch. It won't let you dissolve or put picture-in-picture necessarily or do any of the other tricks that a switcher can do with a mix effects bus. So bear that in mind. It's just a router and not can't composite, put lower thirds, do any of that stuff.
Alex.
Yeah, well, the only challenge you'll have if you put a switcher in front of a switcher, if they're not all gen-locked, you may end up with you'll have one input, and the stuff that goes into them may have a higher latency, which means sync will be problematic. And so you want to watch for that. I would almost always go with a router. So for me, every kit that we build has some kind of router in it. Generally, except with the exception of the larger constellations, we try to have twice as many inputs on the router as we have on the switcher. so the I/O is there, so that and a lot of times we'll take all of our cameras, put them into the router, pass them into the switcher. And what that means is that I can send them anywhere I need to after that. You can decide how you want to use it, but a router is super useful. There's smaller routers, and I know Blackmagic has all these little routers now. I would consider 20 as the minimum, and if there's any way that you can get a 40 by 40 router, it just makes a huge difference. You very quickly run. What happens is you get a router, and then you realize what you can do with a router, and then you fill it up. Like you fill it up really quickly because there's just suddenly all this convenience that you have. Oh, I can send this out and I can do all of these things. And it makes your shows dramatically better. And you don't want to be trying to fiddle with managing routes while you're in a show on the switcher. That's what a router's for. So now you can take that to the next level, which is having patch panels connected to the routers. That really extends it because now every input you can repatch in real time as well. So those are other things that you can think about to extend what you're doing. You probably don't need a patch panel right now, but if you look at a broadcast truck or a large location, the router is a certain size, but it really only represents what they want to use in real time for a show. And the patch panel allows them to extend that router to potentially hundreds of inputs.
If you want to ask questions on the show, you can do that live. You can use our Q&A system. You can post those questions, vote on those questions, which helps drive the run of show, and of course chat with us, and a lot of people are doing that right now. If you don't know how to do that, you can go to officehours.global/join. Just put in your name and email. We'll send you what you need. Next question.
Guy Cochran in Seattle, Washington says NDI broke a lot of production this week. What happened?
Alex.
First of all, I just want to say that NDI didn't break it. A lot of people recklessly updated immediately to something that they probably didn't have to update to, and then it broke. So when something comes out, you should not be, oh boy, let's try the new thing. It should be, oh, let's let somebody else go out first. So you never want to be in the front line of an upgrade, especially if you're in production. So be careful of upgrading. That's the general rule of most production is if you're in a production or near a production, unless there's something you desperately need that's broken, there's no reason to upgrade. Quickly. You want to let other people go out into the hinterland and let them take all the arrows, and then you can, when it gets fixed. What it sounds like, I don't know. It didn't happen to me. But what I've read so far and what it sounds like is that the dynamic link library, the DLL, was misconfigured. So that caused it to multicasting not to work. And so it's a little bug, probably fixed next week. And now everyone knows they probably should wait a couple weeks when a new update comes out so they can let other people who are really excited about it or don't have a production right now test this stuff and figure out that it's not working before they put it in their production.
Yeah, and I have a mixed environment with both Macs and PCs. My rule of thumb is never leave automatic update anything on any of your machines. This was a security patch, and I'm sure a lot of people thought, well, it's a security patch. It's not a major feature update. It won't break anything. But security patches have historically broken things on Windows many times. Microsoft needs to do better. Yeah,
anytime you can get away, you shouldn't, again, you really need to be able to either delay it or not do updates at all to a lot of your production machines, and decide when you're going to do those patches. That's the real issue. Is this again, as a production person, the Windows style of we're going to force everybody to do updates is just insanity. I get that you need to do it for business folks because they download all kinds of stuff, but it's really like having that as a culture is just nutty.
Next question.
Rian Smith in Trinidad, West Indies, Trinidad and Tobago says, hey, Vizrt software must be interesting. Are there any fun attributes the Office Hours panel has learned over time we've been using it versus vmix?
Alex.
Well, it feels like a much more complete app. It's more expensive than vmix as well. I don't think anybody using vmix is going to say that vmix is better than Viz. Like that's not where that's going to come from. I think that they're going to say, well, it doesn't cost as much as Viz, to do it, but it's a really powerful. It's a TriCaster in the cloud, and then some. So we have. I think that the big thing that made a big difference for us is we did struggle a little bit using Zoom rooms in the cloud and getting things to be reliable in Viz. When Viz finally upgraded and allowed Zoom to be internal to Viz, I think the stability and the capabilities jumped dramatically.
Next question.
John Oxpatos in Australia says, saving files in Safari to an SMB NAS, downloads never finish and leave a .download file. Permissions are correct, and other browsers work fine. Is there any workaround so I can continue using Safari as my preferred browser?
Jason, what do you think?
Stop using Wi-Fi. This is almost certainly one of these problems that's just kind of a strange little pipeline holdover. Yes, Apple is a little bit more particular about this, and the fact that it has persistence was built into macOS. SMB as a transport may also be what's getting in your way, but this is indicative of a deeper problem that Safari is just kind of showing to you.
Alex.
Yeah, my general rule is I have a lot of browsers, and if a browser was continually having problems with it, there's probably not much I would do other than use a different browser. So I definitely use things with Safari. It is my preferred browser, but I use Chrome for almost half my day, because there are things about it that just run better. For instance, Google Meet, for instance, doesn't give you all the tools in Safari for some reason, but does in Chrome, because they own it. But so I tend to, if someone's going to do Google Meet, I'm going to jump into Chrome. There's other things that I use Chrome for. So I wouldn't get too caught up in it. But yeah, number one is, as Jason said, make sure you're not on Wi-Fi connecting to it. Number two, if it doesn't work, just say, well, when I do files, when I do those files, I'm going to download with the browser that works.
Next question.
David Brady in New York asks, I'd like to replace the default sounds that Zoom offers for a more branded experience. Does anyone know where the resources are stored? Beep, Fred, Ripple, etc.
I've never tried to do that. Alex, go
never
ahead.
heard of that. Never thought of
I've never even heard of sound from
and you
Zoom.
may find that it may be disconcerting, and it may only be for you. I don't think you could download it. You could change it for a meeting. I think you could change it for your resource. If you're looking for a resource to try to find it in, you may want to go to app data, roaming, Zoom/bin, and there's a PCM there. There's also a ringtone. So in app data, roaming, Zoom, bin, and then there's PCM, and another one that's ringtone. Note that most likely every time you update it, it would change. so it would go back to what it was. So you'd have to write a script that maybe goes in there and, you push a little button and it just resets it. But after every update, it'll probably rewrite it. But again, app data, roaming, Zoom, app data / roaming / Zoom / bin / PCM, and also look at ringtone.
Courtney.
Yeah, what Alex said. Maybe also if you're on Windows, you might be able to change themes. If it's using any of the default ringtones that are in the Windows interface, you could add a theme which might add some additional notification and ringtones to Windows, and then you might be able to access them. Or I don't know whether Zoom only uses its default, its own wave files for its ringtones and notifications, like stored where Alex was mentioning in the registry.
Let's go to the next question.
Jeff Veely in Henderson, Texas asks, I need to purchase a roughly 15-foot USB-C cable to connect an Anker 563 to a MacStudio. Which one would you order for consistent power and data transfer?
Jason.
Full disclosure, I work for OWC, and that means that I know that they have the best fiber cable for this. It's 15 feet, and it does still carry some voltage, and it's much less expensive than all of the alternatives. So just look it up.
Next question.
David McDonald in North Fort Myers, Florida asks, House of Worship, we run graphics through Blackmagic Extreme 4K for key and fill and reference going to Sony Switcher. Extreme Mini wasn't enough. I don't remember why. Extreme 4K going away. What is a good replacement? And this is a QR code question.
Alex.
I don't fully understand why you're using the switcher for key fill. So I don't if you're only using the Blackmagic switcher just to do key fill, I'm trying to figure out what I'm a little confused. about
he just means graphics. It's my guess.
But he said we run graphics through the Blackmagic Extreme for key fill, and then the reference going to the Sony switcher. The Extreme 4. I didn't know there was was there an Extreme 4K that I missed? Did I miss?
There was. There was.
It was like a mini Extreme, but 4K.
Yeah, it was a TV studio. I mean, it was the console one that I had. Oh,
one of those all-in-one things. Yeah. The constellations are the things to use. I mean, I think that's probably. I don't think that's going anywhere. So I think that you're going to end up with one of the smaller constellations to do that. But I'm a little confused by why you need why you need to deliver that for key fill to the Sony switcher. The Sony switcher should be able to see key fill. So you might want to ask that question and let us know what that means there.
Let's go to the next question.
From the QR code, Rick Mitchell in Bowling Green, Kentucky asks, did anyone else find commercials in their YouTube yesterday and find their premium expired with no notice and a large price increase to continue?
Alex.
I did not see that. I use premium. I'm a premium user. I did not see an upgrade, but maybe it's at the end of your subscription, and maybe they are updating that. The hard part really is that when you talk about how much money can you make, your subscription actually makes less money for YouTube. So the premium subscription makes less money for YouTube than if you were just watching ads, because they get paid a certain amount for every time you see the ad. You see enough ads per month on average that probably they would prefer you. Most of the streamers have found that they would prefer you to be on advertising rather than pay a subscription. Now, I think that they've effectively gotten us kind of hooked on the idea of no ads. So maybe they can, maybe the idea was they could move the subscription up and not lose too many people. Because I know for me, they'd have to move it up a lot before I would go back to watching ads on YouTube. They'd probably have to. I don't know what I pay now, but it would have to be more than double than what I'm paying right now for me to be willing to. I don't know if I watch so much YouTube. I don't know if I would be willing to watch ads. It's just every once in a while I get in the wrong account and I see ads and I'm like, this is an unwatchable platform. I don't know how anyone without premium can watch ads.
Courtney.
I know. You sideload SmartTube next, which is what I do. And a lot of people hate me for this, but this is an application that eliminates all commercials. And not only does it do that, it's crowdsourced, and it will actually, anything that's been posted for a while, it will even smartly skip over self-promotion and, remember to smash that bell and hit that subscription, all those kind of promos. It'll just jump right over those and shows me all my YouTube videos without commercials. However, the problem is you have to sideload it, and it only works on basically Google Android TV. So if you have an Apple TV or even the new Fire TV sticks, they've gone to their own operating system, so they're no longer using Google's Android TV operating system. But the original Google TV, the ONN, which is Walmart's Google TV stick, works great. You can sideload it onto there. And the older Fire Stick 4Ks, HDRs will work as well, as long as you don't upgrade them to the new operating system. But I've been happy with it. I use it. Does not necessarily work well on cell phones, but if you have a stick viewer, a streamer stick, or a streamer device that uses Android TV plugged into your TV, it works great.
Just a reminder, you can ask questions on this show. You can go to askofficehours.global, no login required. Just put in your name and question. We'll get it on the show. Let's go to the next question.
Vic Hernandez in Springfield, Missouri asks, could office hours offer a good, better, best equipment list, or is the space too fluid?
Let's go to Jason.
Vic, the question is a little too vague. If you're talking about studios, look at the second hours. At one point, we did a $10,000 studio and a $15,000 studio and a $5,000 and a sub $1,000. But we talk about equipment a fair bit here. You have to be a little more specific about what you're after.
Alex?
Yeah, and I think the hard part is that it's really hard to have a generalized solution. Like, what are you trying to solve for? And so usually what we're best at is someone says, I'm trying to do this for this amount of money, or I'm trying to do this for, this is what I want to spend, this is what I have, and then we try to work inside of those parameters. The hard part for us is if someone just says good, better, best for a personal system, where are you traveling? Like for me, the system that I'm in right now has to fit into a 1510. like that's the rule. Like the 1510, or it's technically the Air, whatever, because it's got a little more room on the inside. But but it has to fit inside of that because it's my carry-on, right? And so that's the cost isn't necessarily that constrained, but that is but you may have a different set of requirements that you're looking for any given thing. Like this is a good, better, best, but we talk about a lot of different things, as Jason said. So it's hard for us to know what we should do good, better, and best, maybe for everything. But again, those would be generalized solutions, not the solution that you need specifically.
And Alex, just for people that don't know what that code is, a 1510, what is that?
Oh, it's a Pelican case. So we, a lot of times we think about these Pelican cases in their numbers. So one that fits, that's 22 by 14 by 9, which in the United States is the minimum or maximum size for a carry-on, is a 1510. A lot of our other cases are 1650s. Those are about 4 times bigger than that. That holds a lot of our gear. Our racks go into 1640s. You get to a point where you kind of know all these different numbers that you use because you're buying so many of them.
And Courtney.
Yeah, there's too many variables in your question there to solve. But one thing you might think of, and we usually have the buy once, cry once, but that can get expensive if you're still experimenting around. So one thing you might want to do if you're talking about professional equipment that is available for rental, so check an AV, if you have AV houses in your neighborhood that rent equipment, look around, do some research, decide what equipment might fill your needs, and rent it for a week and use it and see how it works. Shake out all the bugs and see if it's going to solve your problems. That way you're not stuck with it. So you can rent and you can try several different things before you try once and cry once.
Next question.
Matthew LeConte in Oakland says, OWC has a newer, faster 1M2 enclosure available unpopulated. Which NVMe would you use? 8 terabytes?
Jason?
As much as you can afford, and make sure you're using good internal memory.
Next. Oh, Alex, you want to come in?
Yeah, I mean, if those are, that's the 4 NVMe, right, Jason? That's that he's talking about here. This is the new enclosure.
No, this is the 1M2. So this is the single, the single one.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, yeah, as much as you can get, I would highly recommend, if you're going down this path, is to really strongly think about that 8 terabyte. Storage is like a bag. You'll fill it up whatever you put in it. So also think about, so having that there, I would not buy anything less than 4 terabytes.
All right, let's go to the next question.
Our own Andy Carluccio in San Francisco, California asks, what happened?
Oh, yeah, just didn't advance. Mine didn't advance. I don't know if
yeah, mine didn't either. Anyway, okay. Andy. Hi, Andy. In San Francisco, would you use a tool in production if you knew it was completely vibe-coded? In other words, does the process of how the tool was created impact your decision, or is it just a matter of taking a tool at face value and testing deeply anyway?
Courtney.
Well, we're only briefly, into the edge of vibe coding, so I have never, I've been shamed for the coding, the languages that I use to do my coding in. So, I know that there is a lot of chips on people's shoulders about how things were coded. And if it was vibe coded, who knows, the AI can create lean and mean code too, besides fat and spaghetti code. So it depends. If it works and it's debugged and it's tested, I wouldn't care how it's coded as long as it works.
And Alex?
Yeah, I think heavily testing. When I was working with an a 3D application, there was this problem where you could never reset. You would move an object from wherever it came in, and you moved it over, and would have this new positional number. And I really wanted to zero that out so that my animations didn't have these weird numbers all over them and everything else. And so I asked the programmer to do that, and a week later it was working. And then it had started to have some weird effects if I zeroed it out. And I asked him, I said, did you just, when I said I wanted to zero out, did you just create a null at 0, 0, 0 and then attach that object to the null and then not show it to me? Like just hide it, and that's how you got to 0? And he's like, well, yeah. That's a person doing that. So anyway, like that was a person that wrote that. I don't, I think that we worry about vibe coding being messy, but a lot of programmers write a lot of spaghetti code too. So I think that it being reliable. And I will say that I don't think we're building something right now at O9O that is 100% vibe coded. And Kevin built it, and he's building it. And it's pretty impressive what it does. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but it's a pretty impressive app that lets us look at 400 devices that were not designed to be looked at, get information from them, get error codes from them, get all this other stuff from them, and display it all for us so that we can see them all at one time. And I said, how long would this have taken if you tried to code this by hand? And he's like, never. I would have never gotten it done, and it works perfectly well, And so I think that we are getting to a point. It's not about. I don't think it's really about the vibe coding itself. I still think it comes back to the human and how they're prompting it, how they're designing it. When I talk to like Bo about how Bo is building stuff that he's doing for that he's doing a lot of. Just demo stuff to see if it will work. I mean, he is checking stuff in and out. He's building all that code out. If you think like a programmer, if you think logically, if you think in the process and have an orderly way that you're going to design that, it's still going to come out. I think it's going to come out reasonably good code. And also if you keep it relatively simple. Although I think that if you're a good programmer and you understand structures, you can have a lot of things getting built in different ways by different sections of what they need to do. One thing that I've been doing is moving to a new conversation, putting the code back in and telling the new conversation to look at the code and check it without any history. This is what I'm trying to do, look through this and make sure that it's efficient. And that seems to clean, like one pass of that seems to clean things up a lot. So I don't think that I think we're getting very quickly to the point where the vibe coding is not particularly less stable. There's just so much junk that's made for apps now anyway. I mean, I think that unless you're a very senior and high level and highly ordered thinking programmer, I think vibe coding is very competitive.
Jason.
That which I cannot explain, I do not understand. And in this case, I would prefer something be originally coded instead of pulling from who knows where on GitHub than vibe coded elsewhere. The former has almost certainly been responsible for just countless 0 days and giant problems that have existed and propagated and inconvenienced far more than somebody not understanding the code that they're putting in.
And Alex?
I think to Jason's point is that a lot of people are, a lot of less talented coders are oftentimes, or even talented coders are oftentimes cutting and pasting things into something that they found that is kind of like cobbling different size bricks into the thing to make it all work. I personally would rather have at this point use a coding a vibe platform than cut and paste stuff from something else. And I think that and I think we're going to get it was just released yesterday. Some Apple employees left Apple and created an app that lets you basically talk to your phone and build apps and literally send them to test flight in Swift. And I think that is but what they've done is, of course, spend a lot of effort training that AI specifically for Swift, right? So all the training data and everything else is there. It's not a generalized solution trying to use Swift. It's a thing that's designed to only do Swift. And I think that when you get that kind of focused training, I think you're going to end up with a much better solution.
Next question.
Tommy Chance in St. Paul, Minnesota says, what is the advantage of OWC drives over other consumer drives? I've had great results with everything I've bought from them.
By the way, I just want to say, we're getting a lot of OWC questions, or they've come up, recently. Jason works for OWC. We want to state that. But OWC is not a sponsor of this show.
For the last 25 days, I've been employed by OWC.
Right.
Okay?
No,
We've been talking about them for years.
No, we talk about it all the time. I just want to make sure. It just seemed like a lot today, and so I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that Jason does work for OWC now. Congratulations, Jason. But they're not a sponsor. Just lots of questions coming up. Go ahead.
I think people are catching on to it, and they're going to take advantage of it.
Go ahead.
I mentioned it, and that's really what the upswell is. So, okay, I'll answer your question, but to understand, I'm also not in sales and not at all related to that. So here's been my experience as an independent consultant, which was what I've been doing for the last 15 years. The over-provisioning and the level of testing, the QC, is really what makes the difference here. Over-provisioning, for those who don't know, is when you have let's say a 1 terabyte drive, and you add in another, I'm going to make up a number here, 10% of just completely blank, not counted, unapportioned space, so that if a piece of the drive fails, the drive controller will just automatically relocate wherever, the data that you have from the failing portion of the hard drive. Over-provisioning, I think, is something that OWC has done since day one, and is probably the easiest example of why it's better.
Next question.
Alton Christensen in New York asks, is anyone else experiencing issues with the frame.io transfer app? It has problems with consistent throughput and long pauses during transfers. Multiple tests from different locations show the same issues. Browser transfers are more reliable.
Alex?
Yeah, I stopped using the transfer app years ago. I just found that it was too quirky for me to use it. In theory, it was supposed to be more stable, so you can download things. But I found that specifically Chrome with Frame.io, this gets back into that Chrome versus Safari versus other things, but for whatever reason, Chrome with Frame.io, I can download any size file reliably. Excuse me, any size file reliably. And so I have stopped. It caused me to stop using the transfer tool. But I have experienced what you're experiencing, but years ago, and finally just kind of gave up.
All right, that's it for our show today. Thanks to all the panelists for bringing your A game today and answering these questions. And, of course, to you, the producers, for putting in these wonderful questions. We wouldn't have a show without you. And last but not least, the incredible back-end crew of volunteers that wakes up 7 days a week. It takes a small village to put the show on to make sure everything looks and sounds great. So thank you to the critical work that you do. If we were to have traveled around the world to answer all of these questions today, it would have been, according to the Talala Traversal, 40,000 miles, that's 65,000 kilometers, and 320 million bananas for scale. All right, let's jump into After Hours. See ya.
How's the sandwich shop, Alex?
I haven't gone yet.
It's so good.
I went to get it last night, and it was closed.
Sandwich shop?
So I had a huge breakfast, and it was too much. So then I waited until a long time to get. This was in Boulder, but Jason sent me a sandwich place, and I was standing under it when I got the text.
I saw that, and I'm like, wow, you didn't even have to look at maps. You just looked up.
Well, I looked at maps, and my dot, I couldn't find my dot, and I realized my dot was on top of the map thing. So I was like, oh, I'm right here. So I'm going to go today to get a sandwich. A sandwich.
Soaking in it. All right.
Yeah. And I'm afraid I found sweet greens, and I was like, oh, big salad. So,
yeah.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Cheers. Have a good one.
Take care.
See y'all.